Hello everyone. Today we are going to present information about standard-based approach and content-based instruction prepared by me, Mariam Boutoumit, and Ibrahim Hormatallah, Rashid Bizoran, and Dekhan Sahel. These are some of the main focus questions that you should be able to answer at the end of this presentation, which are: how can content-based instruction be used in the language classroom, and what are the types of learning and teaching activities in this approach, and what are the key principles of content-based instruction, what is the relationship between standard and content-based approach, and what are the best practices in the implementation of standard-based approach, and what is the implementation of standard-based approach on 4 skills. So we're gonna start with the standards-based approach. These are some of the main points that we are going to discuss in this presentation, which are standard definition, type of standard, and the 5C, the objective and the goal, also the characteristic of standards, and the implementation of standard-based approach on 4 skills, as well as the principle. And also we will mention some rule for the teacher and the learner, and we will also talk about some activities and material that are used in this approach, and the assessment in this approach, advantages and drawback of standard-based approach, and also last but not least, the best practices in the implementation of standard-based approach. So we're gonna start with definition. What does this approach mean exactly? As we know that according to the English guidelines of the teaching foreign languages in Morocco, this approach is adapted for the secondary year, common core, first year, and second year. It is defined as a statement of what students should know and be able to do and demonstrate at the end of the process of the language studies. The philosophy behind this standard in education sector is to improve the quality of teaching and to sustain education for all children, and also to provide opportunities for all children in school. What is more important here is that this standard should be clear, straightforward, observable, measurable, and well articulated. And these are some synonyms: learning outcomes, learning objectives, and learning targets. Then we move to the type of standard. There are 3 types of standard, which are: content standard can be defined as a statement about what learners should know and be able to do with English, means what a learner is expected to know and to do in a content area, and what also schools are expected to teach. The second one is performance standard, show us how the learner have achieved the standard targeted. They refer to how a learner are meeting a standard and show the learner progress toward the meeting standard. And the last one is proficiency standard, tell us how well learners should perform, means here we talk about the observable and accessible activities that students may perform to show the progress toward meeting standard. Also, here we can talk about the standard for learners. Because learners should be able to read, write, appreciate differences, and also should have ability to think probably and solve problem, assess what they hear and what they read, and try to learn and work autonomously. And also we talk about the standard for the teacher, because teacher also should have a content, pedagogical and curriculum knowledge, and also should know the teaching strategies and assessments in order to aid learner progress. So we move to to 5C, which standard-based approach is concerned with developing these C's, which is communication, culture, connection, comparison, and community. We start with communication. Communication learner should be able to communicate, understand, and interpret oral and written form to various audience for a variety of purpose. Here we will talk about three modes of present communication, which is interpersonal, interpretive, and presentational. And then we move to talk about culture. Learner should gain deeper understanding of their culture and other culture. Here we will talk about perspective, as you see in this image picture, the beliefs and the view. For example, the attitude, the value, the ideas, and also the practices, the action, and the how. For example, social interaction. And the product, the things, and for the what, for example, the books, the music. Then we talk about the third C's, which is connection. Learners should be able to make a connection with other subject area, for example, history, Arabic, French. And the fourth C's, which is comparison. Learners should be able to compare between their own experiences and culture with other experiences and culture. The last point is community. Learner should be able to extend their learning experiences from classroom to the outside world through activities, for example, the use of internet, sending and receiving a message. So we move to talk about objective and goals. Standard-based approach requires that teachers should help learners first to develop their ability to think. For example, problem solving, critical and creative analytical thinking, developing and testing hypotheses. Also, to develop communication skills, for example, constructing, defending an argument, and working effectively in peers or in group, and also communicating purposefully using the skills acquired. And also we turn to quality work, for example, acquiring and making an effective way of information, drawing up and pursuing positive and rewarding goals. And the last one is foster their connection with their community through recognizing the responsibility and rights as a citizen, as well as contributing to the aesthetic and cultural life of their community. Another objective that standard-based approach help to attain and demonstrate specified skill, knowledge, and attitude that all parties in community need to work together. And also it ensures a valid and reliable assessment and ensures the quality of our educational program and holds program accountable for their outcome. So we move to talk about some characteristics of standard-based classroom. As we know that standard-based approach help to improve the atmosphere and environment in all classes. So the classroom practices and instruction respect the diversity of interests, needs, and strengths of all learners. Means here that teachers should take into consideration the student needs and interests while planning their lesson plan, or while designing their objective, or while designing their instruction. They should take into consideration the student needs and interests. And also teacher ensures that all components of the lesson, for example, learning activities, the homework and the assessments, and the games that teacher choose, and the tasks All these can contribute to the lesson objectives and to the student mastery of the standard. So another characteristic is that learning time is maximized for all learners. Means that this approach focuses on student-centered, not teacher-centered, and try to minimize TTT and give importance to student talking time. And also instruction activity activates prior knowledge and experiences and supply background knowledge. This means that teachers should always start with activating students prior knowledge, and students respond to opportunities provided by the teacher to make a connection between the lesson and personal experience. Means that teachers should take into consideration students' personal experiences to help them make a connection between lesson and their own experience. Then we move to the implementation of standard-based approach uh, on four skills. As we know that the standard-based approach sets regularly highly expectation with regard to the teaching of the skills of writing, listening, reading, and speaking. So we as a teacher, we should work together in order to create a condition necessary for all learners to meet the desired outcome. So we start with listening because standard-based approach, as we know, focus on what students should know and understand and be able to do while listening to the spoken text in order to make students able to demonstrate awareness of the communication process, and also to listen to various types of texts for a variety of purposes, and also to use skills and strategies and to gain a confidence as well as to become autonomous, because this approach engage or encourages teacher to help learner develop the necessary skills to become independent learner. So we move to the speaking. Speaking is one aspect of developing learner communicative competency. Through these skills, learner will be able to effectively speak in different situations and to use skill and strategies to speak in appropriate way, as well as to evaluate information and to be self-confident and to be active speaker. So we move to the reading. Reading, the standard-based approach aims to develop learner ability to extract meaning from variety of materials written in English, and also to analyze and synthesize the reading material, as well as to react to reading material and to interpret cultural elements. So we move to the implementation of a standard-based approach on writing. Since this approach give writing an important role in order to develop learner ability to use the written language for a variety of purposes with a variety of audiences, and also use skills and strategies in order to write and to know how to think about idea and how to organize idea in order to write an effective writing.
This is the second part of standards-based approach presentation. Let's begin with the principles. As you can see, standard-based approach focuses on the process of learning that students go through rather than teaching. In other words, it is a learner-centered approach. Students learn language through meaningful use. Means that they should use language in authentic contexts for meaningful purposes. Communication in three modes to emphasize content and purpose of communication. cultural, social, and cognitive processes in language and academic development, integration of cultural and academic content. These three ideas explain mainly the importance of the 5 C's in learning process. Within the standard-based approach, learners use language to express ideas, opinions, and feelings to achieve the communicative purpose which is important. The last principle emphasizes that grammar is a component part of communication. Teacher and learner rules. Rules for the teacher. Actually, there is a radical shift of the roles of both teachers and learners. For the teacher, he or she is no longer considered as a provider of knowledge or a wielder of power. Instead, he or she makes sure to create a good relationship with students. These are the main roles for the teacher: facilitator, a guide, advisor, task designer, group and process manager, diagnostician, collaborator, coach, classroom researcher. Teacher helps students transfer knowledge and skills. Teacher teaches strategies. The teacher nurtures students' motivation and investment in school work. When it comes to the roles of the learner, learners' roles also changed from passive to active learners. The learner negotiates, cooperates, researches, investigates, participates, active member of the community, evaluate his or her own progress. Now we move to see some activities and materials used in standard-based approach. The first one is inquiry-based activities, like problem solving, group projects, research projects. Authentic texts, research and technology-based projects, like project work. Textbooks that meet various learning styles. Textbooks that explicitly identify goals for the learner. Introduction of ICT, realia and visual aids, audio and video materials. Integrated practice of the three modes of communication, which are interpretive, presentational, and interpersonal. Performance-based assessments. The standard-based approach to the teaching of English requires performance-based assessments. So what do we mean by performance-based assessments? It's a measure of assessment based on authentic tasks. It is also a measure of how learners activate their knowledge and skills to solve problems. Performance-based assessment requires that learners demonstrate specific competencies and apply them in simulated real-life situations. Performance-based assessment is a criterion referenced, means evaluating the learning of students against a set of pre-specified criteria without reference to the achievements of others. It involves regular and continuous assessment. It is more valid than conventional assessment in that it is authentic. Introduction of alternative ways of assessing learners. Engages the learner in self-assessments. These are some advantages of standard-based language education. Standards are flexible, means they can be changed or modified. They can be applied to many languages. They provide learner experiences that promote autonomy and choice. Standard-based approach promotes autonomous learning, means learners should be responsible of their own learning so that they can freely plan and monitor their learning by choosing what, when, how their learning are appropriate to their needs, interests, and abilities. They develop personal professional development plans as they involve all in the learner process. All participants are accountable. Drawbacks of standard-based language education. It is believed that standard-based approach focuses on behavior and performance rather than on the development of thinking skills. Learners are socialized vis-a-vis the values which are socially prescribed and in favor of the dominant socio-economic group. It reduces language to a set of competencies which are sometimes difficult to operationalize in terms of the learner's needs. The best practices in the implementation of the standards-based approach. Developing teachers' capacity, addressing students with special needs through establishing clear standards for students' learning that emphasize product, process, and progress goals. Developing learner autonomy. Professional development. Implementing the standard-based approach helps teachers in their professional development. It helps them to grow more professionally as teachers. This is a simple task. Based on the drawing below, discuss its main points. And thank you.
Well, Assalamu alaikum. Hello everybody. This is Dekhan Sahel, Group 1. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank uh, my colleagues Rashid, Ibrahim, and Mariam, and all the teachers and Mr. Atlaq for giving us this great opportunity to integrate the ICT into learning and teaching, which is something new for me. Let's start for in my presentation I'm going to tackle with content-based instruction, and in this uh, presentation I'm going to shed lights on four principles or concepts. The first one, its concept, I mean the CBI, the content-based instruction, and its background and its central principles, and what is content, what we mean by content as a concept. Okay, let's start with the concept. CBI or content-based instruction is an approach that combines language and content learning methods. Method of language instruction in which content and language are integrated. And language is a vehicle or means for learning content. In other words, content-based learning is a teaching method that emphasizes learning about something, about concepts, about matters, about ideas, rather than learning about language itself. So the language here is a means of learning the content. Its background. The background of CBI is teaching organized around content and content or information that students will acquire, not around the linguistic or the types of syllabus, which means that subject matter is not structural language but a content. And the second tip is that CBI is built on the principle of communicative language teaching. That means the classroom focuses on real and effective communication and exchange of information. And the last one is an approach to second language learning. Let's move to its principles. The central principles. The content-based instruction is based on two principles. The first one, people learn the second language more successfully when using language as a means of acquiring information, and that is true. And the CBI reflects learners' needs for learning a second language, and according to the principles of CBI, leads to learning language effectively. What is content, or what does it mean, the word content? Content is topic or subject matter going to be taught, and through language we can communicate. In other words, content refers to the subject matter that we learn or communicate through language rather than the language used itself. Uh, I think the content in general, the content based instruction is emphasis on the use of language as a means. Okay, that's it, and I give the floor to Master Rashid. I think he's the following teacher, and thank you very much for your attention.
Uh, Thank you, Mr. Sal, for this introduction. So let's continue our presentation. So here we have content-based instruction, mainly focuses on some points, target some points. The first one is that there is integration of language and content. You know, as my friend have just mentioned, that this approach combines between language and content, but here it gives much more importance to content, because language is just a tool to acquire information. As my friend said, that it's a vehicle that is used to convey meaning or to convey content. So we have also learners' interests and needs. It focuses on what are the main learners' needs, because if we want to design a task or a lesson for students, we should target their needs, to see what are their areas of interest, so to make your lesson more successful with this approach. And also we have language use draws on integrated skills. It's very important to integrate the four skills in your lesson within the framework of this approach, because you are not talking about content-based instruction without talking about task-based instruction and also integration of skills. In our CBI classroom, learners play different roles. We have mainly learners are independent, so they are responsible for their own learning. So they demonstrate that the teacher is just a guide and learners are in charge in the classroom. So they are active participants in constructing knowledge, in constructing content, so they are collaborative. There is collaborative learning among learners. So we have also group work, teamwork, peer work. All these are the principles of this approach. And also we have learning by doing. We are not just talking about learning in a passive way or in just as lecturing, but here learning by doing. Learners must demonstrate that they are doing something. At the end, they should give us a result of their learning. Learners also explore alternative learning strategies. So within the framework of this approach, there are so many learning strategies. As I said, the learners try to find different ways of constructing knowledge among them. And also they participate in the solution of topics, activities. Here they play a very important role in creating the meaning of instruction. So this is concerning learners' role. And concerning the teacher's role here, the teacher must be or should be knowledgeable about the content, responsible for selecting and adopting materials, and also to create learning-centered classroom, and to keep context and comprehensibility for most. Here the teacher steps forward and takes the responsibility of being knowledgeable and having enough and ample knowledge about the content that students can learn, and also they should be responsible of selecting and to target the main important content for their learners. So that all is to create a learner-centered classroom. Here materials also play a significant role in CBI instruction. The content here, it must be, or it should be authentic and comprehensible. Authentic means that authenticity is another significant feature of CBI. So texts, tasks, activities that are used, it should target students' needs, interests, something that students can enjoy while doing the task or while learning instruction. It should also be relevant to learners' needs and interests, as I just mentioned before. So also materials here, it plays a very important and crucial role inside a CBI classroom. Types of activities. We have so many activities that can be done in a CBI classroom. Activities, active learning strategies. We have integration of language and content, as I just mentioned. And here activity type by Stoller. Stoller here tries to claim so many activities. We have language skills improvement. We have vocabulary building. We should get students build their vocabulary through many tasks and activities. Communicative integration. While doing tasks, activities, students should communicate effectively and positively. They should communicate among each other, so here communication is very important also. Study skills. Learners also must develop certain skills like thinking skills, collaborative skills, reflective skills, and so many other skills. So here learners can develop within the framework of these. Advantages of CBI. It makes learning more interesting and motivating, because learners enjoy learning when they are given chance and opportunities to be part in the learning process. And also students can also develop much wider knowledge of the world through CBI. So here, because students learn or concentrates on content most of the time, so here they can develop wide range of knowledge of what's going on in the real world. It also helps students to develop valuable study skills, as I said, as I mentioned earlier. So the inclusion of group and teamwork also plays very important role. So within the advantages of this approach is that it emphasizes the principles of teamwork, collaborative work, and also collaborative work among students. And CBI disadvantages or drawbacks. So we have certain advantages here and drawbacks. Language instruction can confuse learners, and it may give them the impression that they are not actually learning a language. This is true because when you are focusing just on content most of the time, students here might feel that they are not dealing with language issues. So, but this is not true because they are unconsciously learning the language. But most of the time, when they are just focusing on content, they are not. They may think that they are not learning, or they are not focusing or concentrating on the language. And also finding information sources. Here, this point is on the part of students. It's a little bit demanding to find sources and to find activities that might interest students. So because now we know that teachers are busy, they don't have much time to investigate or to look for different types of activities, so it can be a little bit demanding or and time consuming. So conclusion of this presentation: although CBI is a challenging approach for both teachers and learners, the outcome of its implementation can be rewarding, can be also it can be motivating, because I strongly believe that CBI can be both challenging and rewarding if students and administrations, teachers involved in the process of this approach, it could be successful. And I personally, I would join CBI with other communicative language teaching approaches like task-based in order to provide more meaning and help learners to acquire the target language. So here is a task of content-based instruction. Here is a task of content-based instruction. I try to choose just we have chosen a task from second year baccalaureate. Here we have in advanced science and technology. The emphasis or the focus here is on the content, as you can see here. So students is a vocabulary activity. Students can learn different content components of technologies and science. So here the focus is not on the language, the focus is on the content. It's for students to know, or for students to be aware of certain components of knowledge of communicative technologies. And here is the activity. So I hope this is a good example of implementing content-based instruction in your. So thank you very much for your listening, and I hope it's clear despite the fact that we have some problems, technicality problems, and I hope it's clear for you everyone, and thank you very much.